So the 49ers have made their first round pick in this 2024 draft. There was so much talk of a potential trade all day. Then we sat there and we waited. There was no trade. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel still on the roster. And maybe it's fitting that we were talking so much about Brandon Ayuk that the 49ers picked one of his former teammates, Ricky Pearsall, Florida wide receiver who was at Arizona State for the first 3 years of his college career. He's also from the Phoenix area. He played against Brock Purdy in high school. We talked to Ricky. Interview is up on the site, so you can go ahead and check it out. He said, yeah, I remember playing against Brock Purdy in high school. He threw for put up 70 points on us. He probably didn't throw for 700 yards. Might have thrown for 400. But Pearsall connected to Brock Purdy through the high school ball, and then obviously played with Brandon Ayuk at Arizona State in 2019. Brandon Ayuk even texted John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan today in a group chat, and he said, not going to lie, that's a fire pick. This guy's a football player. First thing about Ricky Pearsall, and you could check out my quick breakdown article of him on The Athletic, but the first thing is that he is athletic. I mean, you take a look at the relative athletic score. This is elite from Ricky Pearsall. Now, a lot of people were surprised about this pick because he wasn't on many mock drafts. Dane Brugler had picked him to go around the second round. He was the 45th ranked overall prospect. But let's be honest. When we asked the question, why the first round? Well, this was pick number 31. The 49ers don't have another pick until number 63. So if this is the 45th ranked prospect, then the 49ers would have to maneuver. They had to trade up to be able to get him if they didn't pick him at 31. But you look at the athleticism here, and it is excellent across the board. Funny enough, we talk so much about how good Brock Purdy's 10-yard split is. The one thing that isn't great here is the 10-yard split. It's about as fast as Purdy's, but the 40, 4-4. If you can run the 40 and 4-4, you can line up outside. You're not just a slot receiver. 20-yard split, really good as well. The vertical, awesome, 42 inches for the vertical. The broad jump, really good, over 10 feet. Then the three cone. I think that's really important to look at. The three cone, 6'6'4", which is elite. Three cone is a good measurement of short area quickness. So Ricky Pearsall has all of that. If you want to see it on the spider chart, here it is. I mean, we're talking 97th percentile vertical jump, 88th percentile broad jump, 93rd percentile three cone. I mean, this is a first-round athlete. He doesn't have first-round size, but that's the thing. The 49ers think that Ricky Pearsall is really, really tough and he can block. And obviously that's a prerequisite for playing in this 49ers offense. It's a weapon for Brock Purdy. And I mean, the full stable of weapons now for the 49ers, I think, is really, really damn impressive. We can take a look at how this is going to fit within the roster. A lot of people are saying, oh, well, they're going to trade Deebo Samuel now. They might trade Deebo Samuel if they get an awesome offer for him, if they're blown away. But I think the 49ers are much more happy just running out an all-star offense instead. Here's the receiving room. Brandon Ayuk is going to be your X, wide receiver 1. Deebo Samuel, the other receiver. Juwan Jennings, restricted free agent, waiting for the official word that he signed his tender, but he's on the football team. Then you've got Chris Conley, Ronnie Bell, and I have Ricky Pearsall as the 49ers. We'll put him as the backup slot receiver for right now. But what I see him as is basically the Ray McLeod, Trent Taylor role. What's happened here is that the 49ers in free agency, really to close up the pre-draft phase of free agency, signed Trent Taylor, who used to be with them for 4 years from 2017 to 2020, to raise the floor of a position that's really important, punt returner. They needed somebody that was dependable at punt returner, but they gave themselves the option to head into the NFL draft and really raise the ceiling on that punt return position, because I'm not really sure how much they would have gotten out of Trent Taylor on offense. Well, somebody like Ricky Pearsall is going to give you a whole lot more than Trent Taylor on offense. This is an elite athlete. He's much taller than Trent Taylor at 6'1". He returned punts without muffing a single one at Florida. He made a lot of really, really tough catches. When we talked to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch just a few minutes ago after they made the pick, these guys, I mean, both said that you turned on the highlight tape for Ricky Pearsall and it was just play after play after play. we'll go through the tape at some point. I've already watched all 22. I'll share that in a different video. He made potentially the catch of the year in college football last year. It was a little seam route, went up, grabbed it with his left hand, and it just got crushed. I mean, he's really tough. And I think for the 49ers, it was really important to find a guy that was tough. You remember Dante Pettis, 2018. They picked Dante Pettis because he's a really good route runner and he's a good punt returner, but the toughness wasn't there. And they redrew their mission statement after the whole Dante Pettis thing. You could tell they wanted a tougher receiver, and that led to Deebo Samuel in 2019, who obviously is tough as nails. He just bulldozes over people. He's a human wrecking ball. Well, somebody like Ricky Pearsall, I think the 49ers hope that he could be a hybrid. He brings the toughness of somebody like Deebo Samuel, but he obviously doesn't bring the size. The size is lacking, as you can see from the spider chart here. But boy, does he bring the movement abilities of, Trent Taylor had an elite 3-cone coming out of the draft before those back injuries in 2017. So he brings that excellent 3-cone, 93rd percentile here. But on top of that, he brings the 4-4 speed. And the 4-4 speed means he can be adaptable. He can play outside. He can play inside. Normally, you look at a guy that's not as big and you say, okay, he's got a great 3-cone. All right, well, we'll put him in slot receiver. He'll be able to wiggle his way around, short area quickness, all that stuff. But no, I mean, Ricky Pearsall, this is a guy that can play outside as well when you look at the 40-yard dash, when you look at the straight line speed. I mean, the relative athletic score, 9.78, is elite. So you have Brock Purdy. That's obviously a player that you're planning to invest big time in. You want to give Brock Purdy as good of a supporting cast as possible. And this is a step toward that goal for the 49ers. You look at the offense, and it's not just limited to Ayuk, Samuel, Jennings, and Pearsall, but now you've got those 4 guys alongside George Kittle, obviously Christian McCaffrey. I don't think that Ricky Pearsall has to be awesome in his first year because there is such a good supporting cast. That's another reason to keep somebody like Deebo Samuel on the football team along with Brandon Ayuk. By the way, they said that contract discussions today, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan said that there have been good talks. That they seem much more optimistic about it than the last time we talked to John Lynch, when it seemed that they were trying to send a little bit of a message Brandon Ayuk's way. They were saying, you know what, we want you here. We hope that you want to be here as well. That was what I got out of the other day. But today they said the talks are going well. Obviously, the first round came and went without a trade of Brandon Ayuk, without a trade of Deebo Samuel. Is a trade of Deebo Samuel still possible in the second round because he would be worth less on the market than Brandon Ayuk? Obviously, yeah. Maybe somebody sends a higher second round pick to the 49ers, and you could talk yourself into that being a possibility. But as I have discussed so many times, this is a team in win now mode. They are trying to stock this roster and this offense, which was number 1 in the league last year, with as many weapons as possible because they want to kick the door down and go and win the Super Bowl. So you talk about somebody like Ricky Pearsall. He comes in, he can immediately be a complement in that McLeod, Trent Taylor role. I think Taylor's probably destined for the practice squad now. It's a guy that you still want around the building, but geez, you bring this kind of athleticism in the first round, and I'm going to put that relative athletic score back up there. That's obviously a player who you're counting on having a big role with this team. It doesn't have to be huge right away. He can focus on his punt return capabilities to begin, because you do have Deebo Samuel, you do have Brandon Ayuk, you do have Jawan Jennings, you do have George Kittle, you do have Christian McCaffrey. He can focus on that. And then when you hit an inflection point as the 49ers after this next season, if Deebo Samuel's not around past that, once you start thinking about life after Christian McCaffrey, however many years down the road that's going to have to be, well, then you have another adaptable weapon here that can gradually work into that very prolific role within the 49ers offense. And it's so important to have long-term plans regarding these weapons offensively, because Brock Purdy is your franchise quarterback. And I think that Brock Purdy is really happy about this pick. You know who was unhappy that he went to the 49ers? Look at CJ Stroud's reaction. I think this is great right here.
Wow. Your guy.
Well, we probably wasn't going to get a receiver, but hey, shout out to Pearsall.
That was the first reaction I've seen you do that.
Good. Damn.
And that brings up a lot of questions about Deebo.
So then they start talking about Deebo Samuel, but one more time, CJ Stroud, he wanted Ricky Pearsall with the Texans.
Wow. Your guy.
Well, we probably wasn't going to get a receiver, but hey, shout out to Pearsall.
I think that says something. I think the fact that you've got people that have been intimately familiar with Ricky Pearsall's game, either watching him in Florida, knowing him in that Arizona area. Brandon Ayuk. I mean, does Brandon Ayuk know better or worse than the random fan on Twitter who bases all of his draft evaluations and draft grades based on, draft grades of who teams pick based on mock drafts? I think Brandon Ayuk knows it a little bit better because he was teammates with Ricky Pearsall, and Ayuk went out of his way to tweet John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan today. This is one thing. I get a little bit of the flavor of what people are thinking, and I get that people are surprised that the 49ers picked somebody that wasn't on their mock draft. But let me just put this out there. A guy does not have to be on one of your 85 mock drafts. He doesn't have to be on your radar for him to be a potentially good NFL player. In fact, if you are somebody who's followed the 49ers, you should probably know this better than anybody because Brock Purdy was an MVP finalist coming out of pick number 262. George Kittle, all-pro, perennial all-pro coming out of the 5th round. Fred Warner, all-pro coming out of the 3rd round. I could go on and on and on, but the point is that you don't have to be on somebody's popular mock draft to be considered a good pick. Whether or not this is a good pick is going to be determined by how Ricky Pearsall plays. And all I can give you is the scouting report and what the 49ers think of him right now. And the scouting report is one of a lot of athleticism. I mean, to insinuate that this guy has a low ceiling is absurd because he's got elite metrics athletically. And he could play football. You go and you watch the tape, and we're going to break down the tape later, but he's got a really big catch radius. He makes really contested catches. He might be the best contested catch guy on the 49ers roster already. So, I mean, everything from the tape to the metrics is there. To be the 45th rated prospect, that's where Dane Brugler from The Athletic had him. That means you're really good. To be the 45th rated prospect coming out of any draft class, that's really good. So it just doesn't match up with pick number 31. But again, the 49ers have a big gap in between picks. Here's what they have. Pick number 31 down to pick number 63. So say that Ricky Pearsall goes or would have gone where Dane Brugler rated him as, the 49ers wouldn't be able to get him with that next pick. And they really wanted to make sure that they stocked up this offense. It gives them more option power. I think they want to keep all their receivers, but we'll see what happens tomorrow in terms of Deebo Samuel. I think he fits really well with the 49ers cadre of weapons because it just gives them another one. It gives Brock Purdy a very lethal collection of talent. If he didn't already have it, now it's even more lethal. But they don't pick until number 63. And you could see them maybe even moving up for somebody like Roger Rosengarten, staying there if they think they could get Roger Rosengarten, the offensive lineman out of Washington, in the 2nd round. But if they wanted Ricky Pearsall, they probably were going to have to do it at 31. Otherwise, they'd be rolling the dice, waiting a little bit later. And if he was the best player that they thought was there, you have to trust the 49ers with their evaluation because I think there certainly is a lot of good stuff on tape and in the athleticism metrics with this player. Now it's time to see Ricky Pearsall's reaction to being picked by San Francisco. These are always really fun videos.
We are 49ers.
Now that was cool. I think we got to play that one more time.
We are 49ers.
And here are John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan.
But I don't know. I know that we're continuing to have positive talks with BA, and we are really efforting to get something done with him, and we're excited about continuing down that path. And Brandon being a part of this team, Deebo is a part of this team and a big part of this team. So, like I said, we feel great about that group, and we feel like we just made it better with another really good addition to it who complements the group real well.
Close the door on a trade.
Never close the door on a trade. I mean, we, we'll always listen and we have, but we like our group as it stands.
Well, is it at least logical to think that it would have taken something in the first round for you guys to consider trading Brandon, and now that the first round is over, that's unlikely that you would move him?
Yeah, I thought it was unlikely going into it, but that doesn't mean that it can't happen. So, I mean, you listen to everything. Everything's about trying to improve our team as much as we can for 2024 without with jeopardizing 25 as much as possible. So that's everything you look into, and whenever that opportunity comes, whichever way, if you can improve your team, you do that. Sometimes it's hard to picture proving your team, though, without them.
49ers want to do everything they can to improve the 2024 team without jeopardizing 2025 too much. That's exactly what I had been saying over the course of this week. That's when we were talking about all those rumors and the trade possibilities of Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. It was a balancing act for the 49ers. The price for Brandon Ayuk that would have been fair for the 49ers to think about a trade almost certainly, we could even say certainly, included a first-round pick. For Deebo Samuel was going to be a little bit lower later on in his contract, different type of players. So the first round has come and gone without a trade. That means that Brandon Ayuk is essentially off the table. Deebo Samuel probably still partially on the table because the fair trade return for him might still be possible for the 49ers to turn around into picks in this draft. But in all likelihood, if you just listen to what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch were talking about there, they're happy to add Ricky Pearsall into the receiver room with Brandon Ayuk and with Deebo Samuel and with Christian McCaffrey. They want to build as strong of a supporting cast as possible for Brock Purdy. So again, looking at this roster right here, you could just see I put the rookies in green. You could see where Ricky Pearsall fits in. They've got, I have him at that wide receiver 3 backup slot position, but with the athleticism that we have seen from him, with the tape that we see at Florida, this is not a guy that is just your run-of-the-mill slot receiver that's going to plug in for a few catches a year. The hope for Ricky Pearsall with these awesome metrics, the very, very quick 3-cone time, the 6.64 3-cone, the 4.41 40. To play on the outside, you need either length or you need burner speed, and he's got close to burner speed. With those kind of metrics, he can play theoretically at any receiver position. The 49ers love the way that he blocks, despite the fact that he has that slightly smaller frame. They think that he could be adaptable enough to be a true weapon for this offense, and that's why they picked him in the first round. You pick marquee potential in the first round, and the 49ers see marquee potential with Ricky Pearsall. Again, pick number 31, graded number 45. There's not that big of a mismatch there. Also, the punt return capabilities are huge here, and we can slot him in. I'm going to put give Trent Taylor that practice squad demotion. He's going to be over here. We'll put Ricky Pearsall as the 49ers' favorite to be the starting punt returner on this roster. There you go. Format that really quickly, and rookies get the green tag. Oops, wrong one. We will go right there. There you go. Ricky Pearsall, Ronnie Bell, Kyle Juszczyk on the 49ers 53-man roster. He can get back there. He could fair catch a few of those punts. But I think that the fact that Ricky Pearsall did not muff a single punt at Florida last year, average over 10 yards a return, that was a position of need for the 49ers. Ronnie Bell looked rough back there last year. They lost Ray McLeod. They got a little bit out of Ray McLeod offensively on top of his punt return duties, but not a whole heck of a lot. So the 49ers offense was already number 1 in the league last year. Brock Purdy was already an MVP finalist. I think it was the best quarterback in football over the course of the regular season last year. This gives the 49ers even more upward mobility with that offense because it's not just 2024, it's 2025 and beyond. Now, if you have concerns, obviously the size, which was, I think he played through it just fine. He's tough as hell. Ricky Pearsall was over the course of his college career. Everybody that plays against this guy talks about how tough he is, but the higher you get in the levels of the world of football, the more of an issue a lack of size can be. It's not like he's tiny, but he's 6'1" and he's about 190 pounds. So he may have to spend some time in an NFL weight room to bulk up a little bit. But again, that's why you have a group of superstars around him. That's why you have Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and company. Because with that group, there's less pressure for Ricky Pearsall to have to immediately deliver on the offensive side of the football. He can integrate his game into that part of the 49ers offense. And I mean, we've seen that take we've seen that take a while for the 49ers in the past with wide receivers. Let me give this 1 second. Guys, give me a second. I'm going to leave you here with the roster. I'm going to be back. All right, I'm back. Had to answer a couple questions. So anyway, we're talking about the larger fit with the 49ers, and we talk about size, we talk about toughness. And, you know, when you read Dane Brugler's scouting report on the Beast, which is the big draft preview that we have, big draft guide, the prospect guide for the Athletic, I mean, toughness comes in right away when they talk about the strengths of Ricky Pearsall. Exceptional focus and tracking skills, which I definitely saw on the tape. Naturally contorts his body midair to make difficult grabs. His one-handed catch against Charlotte was college football's best catch of 2023. He's very comfortable making the over-the-shoulder catches on slot fades and corners. Creates pockets of separation with quick stem cuts, and his speed won't lag out of breaks. We saw that in the explosiveness metrics and in the three-cone drill. Has a feel for coverage and where to find open zones, especially in the middle of the field. An NFL scout said this: the kid has heart. His dad was tough as shit, sticky-handed receiver, and the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Now, weaknesses: doesn't blow past corners vertically on tape. This is what Dane Brugler said, but he does have that 4.4 speed. So fast enough to line up on the outside. Doesn't have Xavier Worthy speed, who ran a 4.2 140. The Chiefs picked Worthy. That was interesting because the Chiefs traded up ahead of the 49ers and maybe one or two other teams to pick Xavier Worthy out of Texas. Wonder if the 49ers would have been interested there. We do know that they've liked pure speed in the past. That's going to be fascinating to see paired with Patrick Mahomes. But we also know that the 49ers need more than just speed. And Worthy was slighter of frame. They probably think that somebody like Ricky Pearsall is a better run blocker, which is so important within the context of this 49ers offense. Brugler wrote this. He said that Pearsall has experience outside, but most NFL teams view him as a slot-only target. That is something that I think the 49ers don't agree with, based on talking with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. The 49ers see the athleticism. And again, I could put this back up on the screen. They see this and they say, no, this is not only a slot. He's got the burner capability to be on the outside. You talk about other players in the draft that are like Ricky Pearsall. I think Luke McCaffrey down in the 5th round, somebody who's a more recent conversion from quarterback to wide receiver, a lot of speed, a lot of potential versatility. I think Luke McCaffrey might compare. I think this might take Luke McCaffrey out of 49ers consideration. A lot of people were thinking he might go to them in the 5th round, myself included. I thought that was possible. But I recognize the draft is a crapshoot, and you have to move along as if it's a game. You don't know you're going to pick at 31 when the whole thing starts. But the way that things shook out for the 49ers, we saw a lot of quarterbacks go early. We saw a lot of the offensive linemen go early, to the point where they hit the expected no man's land with the offensive linemen. By no man's land, I think they hit that spot where they said, we don't think there's an offensive lineman good enough to draft with our first rounder right now. They might have liked some of the other guys that went earlier in that first round, and they might like some guys later. And I think Roger Rosengarten is a player who they really like. They didn't want to, they didn't find optimal value with a pick on an offensive lineman. They found optimal value with a pick on somebody who, again, Dane Brugler rated as the 45th best player in this NFL draft. We have a couple more videos. This is John Lynch on Ricky Pearsall.
When we have consensus in our group, and that's from scouting, coaching, R&D, and we really had that with Ricky. He's a guy who throughout the process we liked early, and it kept getting stronger, and does a lot of things well, does a lot of the things we covet at that position well, and we believe we have a real strong group there, and we wanted to add another player. And, you know, Ricky is a very versatile player, and also has some punt return value that, you know, we think will come in handy. So just felt like it was the right guy at the right time, and really excited about it.
It's a position real well. I mean, whether he was outside, inside, either receiver, all three of the positions, he can separate down the field. He can separate underneath. Got really good hands. Extremely smart. Very well developed. You can tell he's, I guess I'd call it a gym rat or something, because you can just see he's worked on his routes, put in a lot of hours, because you can see it on.
He had in college, I think he got in Charlotte, where I guess it showed
Really,
his
the sound.
courage. I guess, as you like to say, is that a trait that kind of won you guys over to?
Yeah, he's one of the. I mean, just there's not one play that you see him turn something down.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to go over the middle and do everything he can to catch that ball and not worry about it.
You guys hear me right now? I think I might have lost the sound here for a second. Okay, you do hear me. Good. Well, the video froze. Something happened to where I don't see myself anymore. Anyway, we've gone nearly 30 minutes. I don't know if the video is working. Mike, can you let me know if the video is working? Because everything is frozen over here on my end. I have no idea what just happened. Yes, I am frozen. All good. Well, I'm frozen. We'll figure it out a little bit later. Wanted to give you guys the Ricky Pearsall video, but that's it. We'll be back with a little bit more very soon.